Welcome to the Positive Pants Podcast. Mindset, motivation and inspiration to help you find your positive pants. Let go of negative thinking and stop living for the weekend. With your host, Fran Excel.
Welcome! I'm very excited about today's episode because I'm going to teach you something called reframing. So this is one of my favorite tools. So what I'm going to do is go through what is reframing, a couple of in-action examples for you so you can really sort of get what I'm saying. As always, I'm going to be really practical and give you the examples and teach you actually how to do it. I'm going to dive in. So let's start with what is reframing. So reframing is a really, really cool little NLP technique. If you're not sure what NLP is, it's neuro-linguistic programming. So it's a way that we can essentially kind of retrain our brains. And you'll hear me talking about this sort of stuff a lot. So it helps you, what reframing does is it completely helps you change the way you look and think about something simply by looking at it another way, and therefore completely changing the way you feel about it, which is the key. So you can, with reframing, turn a negative into a positive. You can turn a problem into a lesson or an opportunity. You can turn a weakness into a strength. You can even challenge your limiting beliefs. So those things, the I can't do this because is, or I'm not good enough because. You can change those limiting beliefs and assumptions to create a completely new set of beliefs that can actually help you move forwards and towards exactly where you want to be. So nothing changes. This is the genius. Nothing changes about your situation at all, but the way you see it, think about it, and therefore feel about it completely shifts. So you can see how it's quite a powerful little tool to have in your arsenal. It's pretty cool, right? So I've got my notes here to make sure I don't miss anything. So the first bit I want to go through. So reframing is a way of viewing and experiencing situations, ideas, beliefs, concepts, emotions to find a more positive alternative for you. So it allows you to take a step back from your initial reaction. You know, that's what sometimes when something happens to you, that initial that comes up, and it allows you to think about that situation in another way. And the brilliant thing about it is the more you do it, and again, you hear me talk about this a lot, the more you do something, you train your brain to think this way. So then it becomes so much easier for you to do it automatically. It becomes your go-to way of thinking. So really do try and practice this. Don't be sort of disheartened or anything like that if it takes you a couple of attempts, because I will show you how to do it. But the important thing is that you keep trying, that you don't try it once and think, oh, it doesn't work, because it does work. It's a huge technique, and it is such an important thing to have. So what it can do for you, it can manage your stress, help you manage stress a lot easier and better. It helps you gain more control in your life, which is something that I know we all want. I know that we all struggle with. You're replacing negative thoughts with positive ones. So obviously I'm all about helping you find your positive pants. Here's a blooming brilliant way to do it. It increases your resilience skills as well. So that's your ability to bounce back from things as and when they happen. But it also hugely improves your problem solving abilities, which is something that we need in all areas of our lives all the time. So and like I say, it doesn't change your situation at all. And this is a genius bit. It doesn't change your situation at all, but completely changes the way you think about it. So it's hugely important. So an example of reframing in action for you would be when you're driving and somebody cuts you up. Have you ever been in that situation? And your go-to thought is, you know, it would be to assume that the other driver is arrogant, irresponsible, driving recklessly, a bit of a you know what. And they're doing it on purpose, obviously, because everybody wants to drive like that on purpose, with absolutely no regard for anyone else's safety. So how do you feel when that happens? You know, do you feel good about it, or does it make you feel angry, flustered? For me, it's like when the blood feels like it's rushing to your head, and you allow it to bother you for quite a long time afterwards. And that's one of the main issues with it. And that's why it's so important to learn how to handle these things. So, because with reframing, what you do is you take a step back and you think about all the other possibilities that could suggest otherwise, that could suggest differently to your initial reaction. So could they be rushing to the hospital because somebody's been hurt? They've got a loved one that's having a baby. Could they be really, really upset for some reason and it's affected their concentration? Could they simply have just made an honest mistake? I mean, I see this on the motorway all the time, and it's funny I use this situation because there's somebody in my life that I've used this for, so I know this works. So I'm not saying any of those are necessarily a good thing to be doing whilst you're driving or a good state to be driving in, but reframing it will change your reaction to the situation. So it'll help you to not assume the worst in people. It's a natural thing that we do as humans, is to sort of go to assume the worst. We've trained ourselves to do that over time, but it absolutely can change. It doesn't need to be that way. And the other thing that happens is it makes you more calm. So you aren't so stressed in the situation. So when you're in that situation, I'll stick with the driving example for a little while. When you're in that situation, it makes you a less safe driver as well, because it puts you on edge, and it makes you stressed. So when you do this, it's a much, much safer way to be. It's a lot less stressful for you. Less road rage, definitely a good thing, right? So let me talk you through how to actually reframe. So in its simplest form, reframing only involves 2 simple steps. So number 1, you need to become aware that you're having the negative thought and then replace it with a positive one. I want you to think about a situation that's bothering you at the moment. Let me know if you've got one. So let's see how else we can look at that situation. There's a few questions I want you to ask yourself the next time you're in one of these situations. So how could I look at this differently? Okay. How could I look at this differently? What am I assuming about the situation? So with the driver, it would be a case of you're assuming that they're driving recklessly on purpose, which actually in hindsight seems pretty ridiculous, right? Because I don't think anyone really drives that way. So what are you assuming about the situation? What's your belief about the situation? Is that definitely true? What could you learn from this situation? So say, for example, you don't get a job that you wanted to go for. What could you learn from that? What good things could potentially come from it? And how can you empathize with other people involved? So they are questions. How could I look at this differently? What am I assuming? What is my belief? How could I learn from this? What good things could potentially come from this? And how could I empathize with the other people involved? So I'll give you another example. Let's say, take a difficult boss. I know there's a few of us in the group who have this situation. So let's take a difficult boss. So this person on a day-to-day basis makes you feel miserable. They wind you up. They put you down, all these different things. So your initial thought when something happens with your boss is he's being a royal pain in the jacksie because he's actually just a really, really horrible person, got nothing better to do than make you feel like you're rubbish at your job and totally ruin your day, because it doesn't stop 9 till 5, does it? You carry on and it bothers you for the rest of the day. So it bothers you Monday to Friday. This is why this is so important to do. So that's your initial thought. Pain in the jacksie because he's a nasty, nasty person. So how could you look at it differently? If you have any ideas, let me know. Maybe he's under a huge amount of pressure from his boss, and this is actually just how he's reacted to it. Rightly or wrongly, this is just how he's handling his stressful situation and taking it out on you, because actually he's having a really, really hard time at the moment. So what your new thought or feeling could be in this situation, maybe I can try and deal with him differently. Make sure he has everything he needs to be able to manage upwards without having to push me for information. It's not personal. He has a really tough job and he protects me from a lot of it because most of the pressure that he gets is from above. And I don't have to feel that. I feel the pressure from him, but what he gets is worse. So the result, much less stress, much more empathy for your boss, and a better day all round. I mean, who doesn't want that? Who doesn't want that? It's one of those things, when I learned about reframing and what it actually was, it really did open things up for me. It's a massive thing, and it's such a simple thing, and something that we often don't think about. So another example would be, I know a lot of you guys commute into your job with your horrible boss, and you can see how this starts to contribute to a negative mindset. You can see how this starts to have such an effect on you. And when you can start to shift these little bits around and start to shift those thoughts around a little bit, like a jiggery mindset, jiggery pokery, you can see how you can start to feel better throughout your day. So a really good example is commuters. How much do commuters hate each other? And these are people, when you actually take a step back and have a look at the situation, none of them know each other. It's such a ridiculous thing, but there is this intense hatred amongst commuters. So actually, can you think about that differently? Can you think, actually, what might be going on for that person? Because the reality of the situation is, when somebody's mean, or somebody is, cuts you up, or somebody says something nasty, it's normally because they've got something going on for them. It's normally because they're not happy in themselves. So how else could you look at that person? How else could you look at them with sympathy and empathy? And how could you make it feel better in your head? Because I know I've been in that situation a million times, when you're on the tube and a grown man just barges past you and you want to just go for him, and then he actually has a dig at you. And then you can see you start to flip and roll into this horrible mindset that starts your day off on the worst possible note. So when you actually start to use this technique and practice this technique, your day is just going to get so much better. So your driving's calmer, your commute is calmer, you're nicer, there's all these different things. So next time you're in a situation where you feel like something hasn't quite gone right, and your go-to is the negative, or your go-to is that sort of feeling sorry for yourself, or feeling angry, or any of these things, try this technique and see how you get on. So if you want me to quickly recap for you those questions, so always think about, you need to have your awareness. So become aware of the fact that you're having these negative thoughts, then replace it with the positive one. So how could I look at this differently? What am I assuming about the situation? What's my belief about the situation, and is it true? What could I learn from this? What good things could come from this? And how could I empathize with the other people involved? So, as always, short, sweet, practical. I have very much enjoyed being in your earbuds. So please do drop me a note and let me know if there's anything that you're struggling to reframe, and I will try and do that for you. So drop me an email at hello@franexcel.com, or pop me a message, or anything that you want to do. There's lots of different ways to get in touch with me. So please do so, because I'd love to help, because I really want more people to be using this technique. So thank you for joining me, and I will see you next week. Bye.